Welcome, dear viewers, to a journey through the shadowy realms of folklore, myth, and superstition. Today, we dive deep into the history of one of the most intriguing and enduring figures in the annals of the supernatural, the vampire. From the ancient Mesopotamian myths of blood-drinking demons to the Gothic horrors of Eastern European legends, the vampire's evolution is a tale as rich and diverse as the cultures that spawned it. We'll uncover the origins of these bloodthirsty creatures, explore the Slavic influence that gave rise to some of their most iconic traits, and reveal the ways they've cast their ominous shadows over European folklore. Join us as we unearth the untold stories, the eerie myths, and the captivating legends that have kept us enthralled for centuries. So, grab your garlic, ready your crucifix, and prepare to be spellbound by the mesmerizing history of vampires. But beware, dear viewer, for in the world of vampires, nothing is quite what it seems. The concept of vampires has evolved over centuries and is rooted in folklore, myth, and superstition. The specific origins of vampires are difficult to pin down because various cultures have their own versions of vampire-like creatures. Ancient Mesopotamia. One of the earliest references to vampire-like creatures can be found in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. The ancient Akkadian epic, known as the Epic of Gilgamesh, includes a story about the goddess Lamashtu, who was often depicted as a demon that would drink the blood of babies and attack pregnant women. While not a traditional vampire in the modern sense, Lamashtu exhibits some characteristics associated with vampiric entities, such as the consumption of vital fluids. Ancient Greece. Greek mythology contains references to creatures with vampiric qualities. Lamia, for example, was a female demon said to seduce young men and children, drink their blood, and devour their flesh. While Lamia was not a traditional vampire, she exhibited behaviors similar to bloodsucking and predation. Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptian mythology also has elements that can be interpreted as early forms of vampirism. The goddess Sekhmet was associated with blood and destruction. In one myth, Sekhmet was sent to punish humanity but was ultimately appeased with a red liquid resembling blood. This story may be considered an early precursor to the concept of blood-drinking entities. These early examples from ancient civilizations demonstrate that the idea of supernatural creatures with a thirst for blood or life force has been present in human folklore and mythology for millennia. These entities may not have been true vampires in the modern sense, but they laid the foundation for the development of the vampire legend over time. The Slavic influence on the vampire legend is significant, and it's often considered a key source for many aspects of the vampire mythos. Slavic folklore and traditions contributed to the development of the vampire as a distinct supernatural creature with specific characteristics. The term Upyar, or Nosferatu. The Slavic term Upir, or Nosferatu, a variant of the word Nosufuratu, is often cited as the origin of the word vampire. These words were used in Slavic languages to describe creatures with vampiric qualities. The word Upir is believed to be derived from the Old Slavic term opiri, meaning one who drinks. The term Nosferatu is often associated with Eastern European vampire folklore, specifically in regions like Serbia, Croatia, and Romania. Characteristics and behavior. Slavic vampire folklore depicted these creatures as reanimated corpses that would rise from the dead to harm the living. They were often described as having a ruddy complexion and red eyes. Slavic vampires were believed to drink the blood of the living, but they could also cause harm in various ways, such as spreading diseases or causing crop failures. Methods of prevention and protection. Slavic communities had various rituals and practices to protect themselves from vampires. These included placing garlic or crucifixes in coffins, placing objects like sickles or scythes near the graves to deter vampires, and exhuming and staking suspected vampires to prevent them from returning. Slavic mythology and folktales. Slavic folklore featured numerous stories and legends about vampire-like creatures. The most famous of these was the Slavic vampire known as the Strigoi or Strziga, which was similar to the vampire in its blood-drinking tendencies and other vampiric attributes. The Slavic influence on vampire folklore is essential. because it helped shape the idea of the vampire as a malevolent undead being with a craving for the blood of the living. These elements would later be incorporated into the broader European vampire tradition. Over time, the Slavic concept of the vampire merged with elements from other cultures and became an integral part of the vampire legend that has been popularized in literature, cinema, and other forms of popular culture. European folklore played a crucial role in the development of vampire legends. In various regions of Europe, including Eastern Europe, the Balkans, and the Mediterranean, belief in vampires was relatively common during different historical periods. Exhumations and prevention. One of the notable aspects of European vampire folklore was the practice of exhuming graves suspected of harboring vampires. This was often done in response to unexplained deaths or outbreaks of diseases. When exhumed, the corpses of suspected vampires were examined for signs of vampirism, such as the lack of decomposition, fresh blood around the mouth, or a corpse that appeared lifelike. To prevent potential vampires from rising, preventative measures included staking the corpses, decapitating them, placing stones or other heavy objects on the bodies, or burning the corpses. Spread of the vampire tradition. Vampire beliefs were not confined to a single region in Europe, but were widespread across the continent. While Eastern Europe is often associated with vampire folklore, similar traditions and beliefs existed in other parts of Europe, including Greece, Italy, and France. These vampire traditions had variations in terms of the appearance and behavior of vampires, as well as the methods used to protect against them. The living dead. European vampire folklore often described vampires as the living dead or undead. These creatures were believed to return from the grave to prey on the living, often those they had known in life. Vampires were seen as malevolent entities that caused harm, drained the life force from their victims, and were linked to unexplained deaths and illnesses in the community. Methods of protection. European communities had various methods of protection against vampires. These included placing garlic or crosses in and around homes, using holy water, and carrying out rituals to ward off vampires. Superstitions and practices related to vampire protection could vary from one region to another. Literary influence. European vampire folklore influenced literature, including the works of authors like Bram Stoker. Stoker's novel Dracula drew from various European vampire traditions, particularly those of Eastern Europe, to create the iconic vampire Count Dracula. Christian symbolism. Many European vampire traditions had strong connections to Christian beliefs. The use of holy symbols such as crosses and holy water as protective measures against vampires reflected the influence of Christianity in these societies. European vampire folklore, with its rich and diverse regional variations, played a significant role in shaping the modern vampire archetype. It introduced themes and characteristics that later became central to vampire mythology, such as the idea of the undead, the fear of sunlight, and the need to consume blood to sustain their existence. These folklore traditions contributed to the evolution of the vampire legend, which has since become a prominent figure in literature, cinema, and popular culture worldwide. Literature and pop culture have had a profound influence on the development of the vampire legend, shaping how we perceive and understand vampires in the modern era. Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1897. Perhaps the most iconic work of vampire literature, Bram Stoker's Dracula introduced Count Dracula, a Transylvanian nobleman who is also a vampire. Stoker's novel popularized many enduring elements of vampire mythology, including the fear of sunlight, immortality, the need for blood, and the power to transform into a bat. Count Dracula became the quintessential vampire character and laid the foundation for future vampire stories. Anne Rice's The Vampire Chronicles, Anne Rice's series, which began with Interview with the Vampire, 1976, reinvigorated the vampire genre in contemporary literature. Her vampires are complex, morally ambiguous characters with rich backstories, and the series explores themes of immortality, morality, and existential angst. Rice's novels humanized vampires and made them more relatable and sympathetic figures. Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series, starting with Twilight, 2005, brought vampires into the young adult genre, with a focus on romance and the supernatural. Her portrayal of vampires as physically attractive, immortal beings with unique powers contributed to a new wave of vampire-themed books and films aimed at younger audiences. Pop culture and film, vampire-themed films such as F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu, 1922, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, 1931, and more recent entries like The Lost Boys, 1987, and Interview with the Vampire, 1994, have played a significant role in shaping public perceptions of vampires. These movies often emphasize the allure, charisma, and danger associated with vampires. Vampire television. Television series like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997 to 2003, True Blood, 2008 to 2014, and The Vampire Diaries, 2009 to 2017, introduced vampires to a new generation of viewers. These shows explored various facets of the vampire mythos and delved into complex character relationships and conflicts. Contemporary literary and film trends. Vampires have continued to evolve in contemporary literature and film. Authors and filmmakers have experimented with new interpretations, including more diverse representations of vampires and explorations of their cultural and psychological dimensions, crossing genres. Vampires have become versatile characters, appearing in genres beyond horror and fantasy, including romance, comedy, and science fiction. They have been incorporated into various storytelling contexts to explore themes such as identity, sexuality, and societal integration. Literature and pop culture have propelled the vampire legend into mainstream consciousness and have allowed it to continually adapt to changing cultural norms and societal fears. Vampires remain an enduring and iconic figure in popular culture, reflecting the evolving interests and anxieties of each era in which they are portrayed. Whether as villains, anti-heroes, or romantic protagonists, vampires continue to captivate audiences and inspire countless creative works. As we conclude our journey through the captivating history of vampire legends, one thing is clear. These creatures have truly stood the test of time. From ancient folklore to modern-day pop culture, the allure of the vampire continues to grip our imaginations. We've delved into the darkest corners of mythology, explored the blood-soaked folklore of Eastern Europe, and unraveled the threads that tie these legends to our collective human psyche. But the beauty of these stories lies not only in their chills and thrills, but also in what they reveal about our own fears, desires, and the timeless quest for immortality. As we bid adieu to this chapter of the vampire story, we invite you to continue your exploration. Dive into the literature, immerse yourself in classic films, and join the ongoing conversation about these enigmatic creatures. And remember, our understanding of vampires, like the legends themselves, is ever evolving. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, so please share them in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this mesmerizing journey. Until next time, stay curious and embrace the mysteries that await in the shadows.